The Vikings really aren't that good, but they keep winning.
On today's Top Shelf Tuesday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and the OCP team of correspondents recap NFL Week 10, review their preseason predictions at the midpoint of the season, review Dr. Adams' strictly for entertainment purposes only picks, as well as previewing Week 11 of the NFL season. Welcome to today's show.
The Odd Coaches Podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams. My partner, as usual on Sundays in the fall, is on assignment, but we have the dated reference of the Cavalcade of Stars, starting with my main man, Mike King. Mike, how are you doing today, sir?
Cowboys lose, doing pretty well.
Yes, we have the America's official, Robert Abney. Robert, thank you for joining us, and it's special to have you tonight because we're going over our preseason picks. How are you, sir?
I'm living the dream every day, man. You know that.
And Chris, I'm so mad at you, Chris, but I'll tell you about that in segment 3.
Right.
But how are you, sir?
Not good still. Raiders keep on losing.
Yes, and
but Robert said they would go 8-8, so here we go.
We'll talk about that in segment
Or 8
3.
and 9. Sorry. There we go.
So, fans, in segment 1, we'll talk about my games of interest, and special to us tonight, we're going to reset our preseason predictions and see how well we did with our panel. But first game was Vikings and Bills, and my initial thoughts were, what in tarnations was that? The Bills keep choking. The Vikings really aren't that good, but they keep winning. And why is Josh playing when y'all know he's hurt? Robert, any thoughts? Did you even watch the Vikings Bills?
So I didn't see any of that game, but I can tell you this. People keep saying, "Oh, the Vikings aren't that good." Well,
they're 8-1, man.
They're 8-1. So maybe they
all
are
a house of cards.
Maybe
man.
they are that good.
It's all a house of cards.
Oh no.
Mike, did you even watch the game? And tell me your thoughts if you did.
I caught the game once the Giant game ended. So I saw the catch that I thought was a catch, but then I saw the replay. I was like, no, that wasn't a catch. Because the left
I thought you were talking about the one-handed one. That was big time.
I've seen Stephon Diggs do that from what at Bird Stadium back then.
Don't call it Bird. That's not politically correct.
You can't say it anymore, but at the time. So yeah, I saw the game when it got interesting, because Bills and Chiefs games, they get interesting when there's 30 seconds left. And they need Brian Dable. I think that's the moral of the story is Brian Dable was he stirred the drink. He was the guy.
All right. So Chris, I opened the show saying I was mad at you, and I'm mad at you because of the Indianapolis-Las Vegas Raiders game. One, how did Jeff Saturday get this job? I'm still mad at that. And two, Josh McDaniels lost to him. So they basically got a guy all off the couch and said, here's the job. And he took it. Of course, I will always, the line is, take your money and drink your wine. I will eat your food, drink your wine, and take your money. But Chris, come on, man. Tell me.
At first, I thought you were talking about how did the Raiders hire who they hired? That's what you were talking about first. Okay, but Saturday, hey, he's like a fan. We were just talking about before we came on how every coach needs a fan to stand next to them and tell them how to do the job right. The players, seriously. Players becoming coaches have always been pretty successful. They're just all throughout history. And I can just point to, like Dungy, Art Shell, Flores for the Raiders, Don Shula, all these guys that were players that understand what it's like to be in the trenches, and then they come out and they can coach. I mean, here's another one. I mean, he was a center. Hey, just block. Just block.
Not for reaction, but just my snarkiness. Seattle, Tampa Bay. Tampa is 5-5 in first place and headed to a bye week. And they tell me historically that Tom Brady plays better in the second half of the season than the first half of the season. So I will just say we said that out loud, and I'm going to move on to the last piece. And fans, I want to thank my colleagues for letting us watch the end of the Dallas Green Bay game, as I had a lot of money on it that we will talk about in segment 3. But Robert, Aaron Rodgers is a pain in the ass. I watch this guy, and he just gets on my nerves. He grates my skin. Dallas is not that good, and don't look for a long run for the Cowboys. But Robert, any thoughts on my thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Do you agree, disagree? But that guy really, he's getting on my nerves.
I'm not a Aaron Rodgers fan. Never have been. But I will say this. I mean, he doesn't have, part of the reason the record for the Packers is what it is he doesn't have a whole lot of help. Now
that's his own fault.
It totally is, because, if he wanted to, he could restructure his contract and, give them some money to figure out ways to get him somebody to throw the ball to. He did have that one guy. He threw 3 touchdown passes to that one guy today. He's fast, but apparently he also drops the ball a lot, because he dropped a couple today. So
I'm sure.
I don't know. I just, Dallas, that's a missed opportunity for them, for sure.
All right, so fans, we're going to move on to my thoughts of the week, and I'd like to get my panel's thoughts on our predictions in the preseason. So we did preseason predictions for every division. I'm going to go through the division winner, we said, the playoff teams, the surprise teams, biggest disappointment, and then we'll just go in order of my screen, any quick thoughts you guys have. So for the AFC North, the prediction in the preseason was the Bengals. The playoff team was the Ravens and the Steelers. If the Bengals will win the division, playoff teams will be Ravens and Steelers, or Ravens or Steelers. The surprise team would be the Browns and Steelers. And the biggest disappointment, our panelists said, somebody said the Browns, somebody said the Steelers, and somebody even said Cincinnati. I don't know who said what. On my screen is Mike. Mike, how do we do with the AFC North? Any thoughts?
Sounds like overall pretty decent. Steelers obviously would have been the potentially wrong answer, but when you look at the Ravens' schedule, it really lines up for them to maybe work their way to a 1 seed. They don't have many tough games left there. Bengals showed that they don't need to win a division to go on a run. They've got the pieces they need. So the two of them, I mean, anyone could win this year, I think. And those are 2 teams that wouldn't surprise me if they went on a run.
All right. Chris, any thoughts on the AFC North with what we did? I don't even know if you were on that show or not.
I was not, but I would have taken Ravens. But the Bengals, I think, can still pull it through, but I still say Baltimore's going to take the division.
All right. And Robert, were you on that one?
I don't remember.
That's okay. What do you think about
what I will say is I think I think we got the Bengals and the Ravens right. Lamar Jackson is scary good. And people talk he's not very accurate. Well, I think he's pretty accurate. Okay. He shows he can get it done. So I think probably those 2 teams, and I don't know why anybody thought the Steelers were going to be good, but
I think that might have been me because of the Mike Tomlin thing. I think that might have been me.
Okay.
Might be. All right, so we're going to move to the AFC South. The prediction was Indy would win the division. Indy would be in the playoffs because there was not a lot of respect for the AFC South. The surprise teams Indy, Titans, and Jacksonville, and the biggest appointment would be the Texans and the Titans. Robert, how did we do with the AFC South?
I was on that one.
Okay.
And we all got it wrong on the Titans because clearly Mike Vrabel is clearly a really good coach because
Yes, he is.
they it hasn't looked like they've got much and they keep winning.
Okay. All right, Chris, what about you, sir? What do you we stuck that one up, didn't we?
Oh, we sure did. Okay. I mean, look at all these teams that are going to probably make the playoffs out of that division.
Yeah.
And we didn't pick anybody besides the team that's not going to make it.
No, a lot of disrespect. Mr. King, any thoughts on the AFC South and how bad we did?
Well, the Colts are in second, so it doesn't sound like y'all did that bad. I wasn't on that one. Titans are surprising because after they lost that first game to the Giants, when it looked like that was a real bad loss, didn't think they would be able to turn around like that. But here they are, 6-2.
All right, AFC West. Chris, I think I see your fingerprints on this. Division winner, Kansas City, Raiders, and Denver. So I think Akil might have been with it too. Playoff teams, Chargers and Kansas City. Surprise team, Raiders and Denver. Again, I'm seeing Chris and Akil. Shout out to Akil.
Oh, surprise. The Raiders are the surprise all over the place. Okay.
And biggest disappointment was Denver, KC, and the Raiders. Chris, any thoughts on that? One, were you on there, and was that you and Akil?
Oh, I was there, and the Raiders were taking the division. Okay. And Robert gave me a hard time saying that they were going to come into Kansas City. They were going to come into the final week
8-8.
Okay. And they were going to lose to Kansas City, even though it's in Vegas. And I said, there is no way. I said, the game's going to be important. Yeah. But hey, we're going for that 8-9 or 9-8 record now, like Robert told me that we were going to. He promised me that all the teams in the AFC West were going to be 8-8 going into the final week.
All right, Robert, you can defend yourself, sir.
I don't think the Chiefs are going to be 8-8 going into the final week. Who is that? Was it Dennis Green? I can't remember. There was one of those coaches who's like, they are who we thought they were.
Yes, the late Denny Green said that.
And the Chiefs are who we thought they were. They're pretty good.
All right, Mike, any thoughts on the AFC West as you look at the crazy board from the from the preview episode?
The only thing that kind of stands out is just how Denver is donating a couple picks to Seattle. They're probably gonna be pretty good picks.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move to the NFC. The NFC North, we had Green Bay and Minnesota as the division winners. Green Bay and Minnesota as the playoff team. Everybody picked one of the four teams to be the surprising team. And the biggest disappointment, Minnesota and Green Bay. That's what we said. Mike, I don't think we got it all right, sir.
Doesn't sound like it. I mean, Packers are the disappointment. That's even with this win, they're the disappointment. I think the Lions, even with their bad record, they're at least they're trying.
Yes,
they're trying. And Fields looks good. That. So the Bears, that's all they needed for the year. Just to know that Fields was a pretty good player. So yeah, the Packers are the only disappointment.
All right, Chris, what do you think about the NFC North predictions?
I can't remember what I predicted. So I'll say that I predicted Minnesota, which that wasn't true. Minnesota, like you said, they have the glass jaw. I have no idea why they keep winning. They are not
cards.
They are not 8-1 worthy. They are not. They are not they're not better than Kansas City. There's no
way. Robert, any thoughts on the NFC North? It's a house of cards in Minnesota.
I mean, the Lions are really entertaining to watch.
Yes.
But part of why they're entertaining is they've given up the most points in the NFL. So, it's not going to be boring because there's going to be plenty of scoring. And again, the Vikings, I mean, they're not that, Chris just said it. They're not that good. They are. I don't know.
All right. So NFC South, pretty cut and dry. We picked New Orleans. I'm sorry, we picked Tampa Bay as the division winner. New Orleans would be a playoff team if they had to. Carolina would be the surprise team, and the biggest disappointment would be Tampa Bay. I actually think we kind of got that one. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, Tampa Bay's in first place and extremely disappointing. So that would that tracks.
All right. Robert, what do you think about the NFC South?
That's a poo-poo platter. That's what that is. It's a bad division.
Okay. Chris.
Well, I always thought that Tampa Bay would take it if Brady stayed in and was focused, but then I kept trashing how unfocused this dude was, and they were losing. But now, hey, I think he's got his act back together again, and so we need to watch out for Tampa Bay.
Got the albatross off his neck. Anyway, I'll let that go. So the NFC West, if I'm not mistaken, following was with us, because as I'm looking, I'm seeing a lot of San Francisco. So we had San Francisco and the Rams as a division winner. We had as playoff teams San Francisco, the Rams, and Seattle. I don't know who said it. Might have even been me. As a surprise team, we had San Francisco and Seattle. And the biggest disappointment was Arizona. Chris, I think we might have done something in the NFC West. What do you think?
I think so. Hey, I said that, hey, if in Seattle, if they can have like a Dick Vermeil type of coaching scenario, and then whoever they settled on quarterback, because they hadn't settled on it yet in the preseason, would be like a Kurt Warner, they might have a run for it. And, Seattle, I think is, even though with the loss today, I think Seattle will take this division over everybody, even though it's kind of a trashy division as well.
All right, Robert, what do you think about our NFC West predictions?
Well, I was on that one, and I remember nobody really liked Arizona, and it's not hard to see why, right? Because
well, my love affair, their coach, jerk.
Yeah, they're just not good. One thing with that division though is if you look at their records, I mean, they're all pretty close. But the 49ers they've given up the least points of anybody except the Eagles. And I mean, because they play good defense, if they can figure out how to score, I think they're going to wind up winning that division. Just because that defense is so good.
All right, and Fowler would like you saying that. I can hear him now. And exactly. All right, Mike. Any thoughts on the West?
Just missed out on the Rams being the disappointment, because that was a bit of a surprise.
We poo-pooed all over Arizona, so
Yeah,
the Rams
Arizona
kind of
got it all.
All right, Mike, we're going to start with you on the NFC East. We had Washington and the Eagles as division winners. I don't know who said Washington. Might even been me.
I think that was me.
Oh, that was you. Oh, you were on that one. Okay.
I was on that one.
All right, playoff team. We had the Eagles in the playoffs. Surprise team. I believe you said the Giants, Commanders, and Eagles. I don't know who said any of those. Biggest disappointment, the Cowboys. Well, thank you for playing horribly today, because I won an extra $18.50. Mike, how did we do on the NFC East?
I think pretty good. Everyone in there seemed to think Eagles. I just think Washington, they have so much talent. They have been playing better recently. I'll say that. But it's a good division. I mean, Washington's got a chance. They're half a game out of the wild card right now. There's a chance that NFC East just takes it all. So I think we did pretty well. And the Giants being a surprise, I think that was me who probably said that.
I think it was you.
That might have been the best prediction of any of these things. So there's a little pat on the back there.
All right, Chris, what do you think about the NFC East, my friend?
It's not what we thought.
No, not at all.
The Giants are the biggest surprise, I think, coming out of that. Yeah.
And Robert, with everybody being 8-8 going into the last week of the season, what do you think about our picks with the NFC East?
I didn't see the Giants being any good, and obviously they're, I think that there are a lot of teams who kind of feel about a lot of people who feel about them the same way that they feel about the Vikings. How are they doing it? But the fact of the matter is they're 7-2. So I mean they're pretty good. The Eagles, I will say this right. The Eagles are not going to run the table. Somebody's going to beat them.
Yes, they are.
Somebody.
They might lose against the Commanders. They might.
I will also say they're going to be favored in every game going forward.
Yeah.
So
I'd
say the difference between the Vikings 8-1 and the Giants 7-2 is you could name people on the Vikings. The Giants and Saquon Barkley, and they threw to a guy named Cager. I mean, I've never heard. I'm a fan. That's good for you, buddy. I was texting my friends. I'm surprised they let him into the stadium. Who is this guy? It's amazing what they're doing. They took practice squad guys from the Steelers. Steelers are terrible. We're taking backups from bad teams. It's good stuff.
All right. Well, fans, when we get back, we get to hear from our colleagues and correspondents on today's best and everything else about the NFL on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 2. Our team correspondents jump into the fray. So, Mike, what was the best thing you saw today, my friend?
I think I'll go end of the Bills game, because when they get a game that's close and it gets to the end, it's just so much fun. 30 seconds. Bills and Chiefs. If Josh Allen,
handoff exchange, man.
With 30 seconds left to give Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes the ball, magic happens. Must see TV.
All right, Chris, what's the best thing you saw today?
That same game, but it was Jefferson, with almost 200 yards and a touchdown. I mean, phenomenal player.
Yeah, he balled out. Robert, what was the best thing you saw today?
The only game I saw today was Dallas and Green Bay. So I mean, I think that's a real missed opportunity for Dallas. That's a game that they probably later on will be looking back on saying, yeah, we probably should have had that one. That wide receiver, that number, I can't even remember his name. I think it's Watson. He had 3 touchdown catches. He played really well, So that's a big that's a big thing for them going forward if they can keep him going. Other than that, I mean, tell me, is Jeff Saturday winning his first game? Some dude just showing up to coach.
Okay, enough. Cut him off. Robert, you already had your pick.
All right, so the biggest surprise, because I think we all did our 3 because Chris threw me off. Robert, what's your biggest surprise, or was Jeff Saturday winning your biggest surprise?
Actually, I think my biggest surprise is Minnesota going to Buffalo and winning.
Yes, that's a good one. Chris, what's your biggest surprise?
Pittsburgh winning. They actually had a couple running backs that made a lot of yards, and the defense stepped it up and had a couple of interceptions too. So, hey, go Pittsburgh.
All right, Mike, what's your biggest surprise?
I'll take the low hanging fruit and go with Jeff Saturday because
How did you lose to that dude?
Oh, come on.
how does he get it? How do you hire a guy who you want to be an assistant coach and he was like, I don't want to work, and then you just give him? Don't like any of it. When I think of Jeff Saturday, I think of Peyton Manning screaming at the sideline, "Snap the ball! You're the center. Snap the ball. Be quiet. Don't talk to me. Snap the ball."
That's funny. All right, Chris, I think I know what you're going to say.
I guess he snapped the ball today.
Chris, what's the biggest disappointment of the day, sir?
I'm not jumping on that bandwagon with the Raiders. I would have to say it was Chicago giving up the 14-point lead over the Lions and saying, hey, we give up. We're going to lose.
Mike, what was today's biggest disappointment?
I'll say Cowboys because NFC is going to get pretty tight and they lost to a team that everyone's been beaten.
All right. And Robert, what about you?
I agree with Mike. I think that game is that's gonna be one they're gonna look at later on and say, that cost us.
All right. And Chris, next week, what should we look for?
I think we look at Dallas and Minnesota and let's see, can Dallas come back and or is Minnesota going to keep on winning? And then the Kansas City at Chargers.
Yeah, that should be a good one. Mike, what about next week?
Giants, Detroit. None of you probably care, but for me, I'll go Giants, Detroit. While we keep winning, I got to keep caring about them.
That's okay. And Robert, what about you, my friend?
Well, A, can the Eagles keep it going? And B, where's that Vikings Cowboys game at?
Does anybody know?
You want to know where that is?
It's I think it's in Minnesota.
Oh, so Dallas went to Green Bay,
goes to Minnesota,
and then goes back to Minnesota. Yeah, that's a tall order for them, but that should be a pretty good game too.
All right, so that is the weekend review from our correspondents, and in segment 3, strictly for entertainment purposes only. Thank you to Green Bay. I had a better week, and we'll be right back to hear about it on the Odd Coaches podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA SAVE Project's academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 3, strictly for entertainment purposes only, we go all over the NFL. So I'm looking at my top 5. We tape on Sunday, folks. So Philadelphia is still undefeated as of this taping. So gosh darn it, they're still number 1 for me. And we're going to ride that sucker until the 72 Dolphins pop open champagne bottles. Minnesota is my number 2. All right, because, hey, Kirk Cousins is a bank robber, but I don't care. They're 8-1, and shortly you're going to find out. Buffalo is still number 3. I shouldn't have them as number 3. They shouldn't be up there. I should move Kansas City up, but I'm going to make Kansas City 4, even though I shouldn't. And number 5, Mike, your guys keep winning. So the Giants are my number 5. On the outside looking in, Cowboys, Miami, Baltimore, and Tennessee. That's how I'm looking at it right now, and I'm still surprised Miami is rolling. I'm still surprised by that. This week I was 3-2, and I was plus $15.40. Okay, 15.40. Hold on. Hey, Mom, I won 15.40. She doesn't care. Okay. Here are my picks. I had Tennessee -3, and I've been pretty darn good with the spread this year for both college as well as the NFL. I had Indianapolis and Las Vegas under 42.5. That didn't work out for me. When they start scoring points, man, I just don't know. My two play of the week were the Giants and Kansas City. So that was pretty good. My three play of the week, fellas, listen to this. I had Miami, I had Chicago, and I had Las Vegas.
Ooh.
That is as safe and conservative of picks that I could make. And for my three plays, I am 1-9 on the season, and I'm betting conservatively, and I'm running into the greatest comebacks in the history of the NFL ever. And my money line play of the week was Green Bay over Dallas, straight up. And hey, it worked out for me. Look for the picks on Sunday mornings, and Chris sets his picks as well. My season-long picks, we've got Pittsburgh over 7.5. They finally got a victory. So, hey, we'll take it. Almost halfway there. Jacksonville over 6.5. They got 3 wins. Buffalo over 11.5. That might be a problem coming up. That might be a problem. Chargers over 10. I think the Chargers are on a bye week this week. I think so. Minnesota over 9. They already got 8. New Orleans over 8. They got 3 wins, almost halfway there. Philadelphia over 9. They might hit 9 tomorrow when they beat the Commanders. And San Francisco following got me picking that over 10. Next week buys are Miami, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. Week 11 games to watch. Here's what I had. I had New York versus New England. I had Philly versus Indy. I had Dallas, Minnesota, and I had Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. And fans, we do have a treat as we are in segment 3. Jake Charlotte, our good friend, Notre Dame and Washington Commanders and national correspondent, was able just to sneak in. So we're going to sneak in a quick comment from Jake. Always good to see Jake. He spent the last 2 weeks on the road. So, Jake, first of all, how are you? And second of all, man, what was the best thing you saw today in the NFL as we wrap this up? But we can rarely get you. So we want to get your best thing going right now. What's the best thing you saw today, sir?
Oh man, best thing I saw today had to be the Vikings and the Bills. I mean, what a game. Especially after the way that game started. I just was stunned that the Vikings came back and the way that they played. But, the beginning of that game, I was just saying to my son, I said, this Bills team, this is about as good a team as you're going to see in the NFL from year to year. This is one of these dominant teams that's going to go ahead and, reel off a 15-1, 14-2 regular season, go win the Super Bowl and dominate, and then the Vikings, come back, make it a game and do what they did. It's just, I was just blown away by that. So that was definitely the best thing I saw today.
All right. And while we got you here, because we're going to take advantage of this, tell me your thoughts on the Jeff Saturday hire, because Adams is just irritated to no end on that. What did you think about that, sir?
I mean, it's just, I think what most people did, like, what? I hope they at least called Peyton Manning. And there was about 100 other guys that probably should have been on the list. I mean, he seems like a good guy. I've watched the NFL Network, mic'd up stuff with him and Peyton Manning like everybody else. He seems like a good guy, and obviously he's a guy who was a great player for the Colts franchise. But yeah, I was very surprised that he would just pluck that as opposed to somebody who's in the organization, somebody who's actually on a coaching staff. So,
All right. And then the last thing before we wrap up, what do you think about all the things going on with the local commanders to the Washington area? Any commanders' thoughts that you have with everything that's been going on in the news?
well, I'll just say that I've already said that we need to have a ticker tape parade when the franchise is sold. It's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to the Washington franchise since I don't even know, 91. But this is great news that little Danny may be on the way out, and I couldn't be happier. And I can once again start watching Washington without feeling like I need a shower afterwards. So I'm excited.
All right. Final thoughts from our panelists. Jake brought it strong. Let's start with Chris. Chris, any final thoughts going in the next week as we close out this week's show?
I don't know why you guys have to be hating on my team so much. Okay. Just because they keep losing to losers. The Raiders do play the Broncos in Denver. So hope's always eternal. Let's see if the Raiders can beat the Broncos and go 8-9.
All right. Robert, any final thoughts, sir?
I'm interested to see because now's about the time that we start seeing coaches really on the hot seat. I mean, they fired the Colts guy, obviously. But I'm interested to see who's next. I'd like to think, and I could be wrong. Chris, your head coach over there. He's
I think he's going to go chop.
Yeah.
He's got one. He's been there a week and a half.
Oh yeah,
Right.
and they're going to hire Jeff Saturday's son.
Okay. Mike, any final thoughts?
Giants are guaranteed to have a winning record until at least December 17th. So we're getting close to Christmas. Getting close. One more.
Jake, thanks for fitting us in.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about the NFL as we head into what is next week? Week 11 or week 12? Which one is?
Well, as I know, this is probably coming out the night after Monday Night Football, but
It is going to come out the night after Monday Night Football.
if I can make a prediction, if I know the Redskins / Commanders, I'm sure they'll have a wonderful performance on Monday night against the Eagles. That'll be my prediction.
All right. I hope you're sarcastic because your record on primetime television is not very good.
Yeah.
But again, we appreciate you sliding us in here. We appreciate our panel. So on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.